Max, welcome again to Energy Quest. If you've been here on previous editions of the talk show, so you have contributed immensely especially to renewable energy. So we say thank you for that. And we hope you come again and again. So viewers, this is Mr. Maxmillian Kwarteng, and he's here again with us to talk about COP. I know you heard so much about COP, and there was COP 27, there's COP 28 now, there's going to be COP and COP. What is this whole COP business? What are they talking about when we say COP? Some people just know there's some conference like that, but there's more. There's a lot of climate discussion. What is COP and what's the whole essence of it? What's the value to all the countries that are involved now?
All right, Leslie, thank you very much. COP is actually the abbreviated, form of Conference of Parties. And I think we had a lot of noise from when it was from the Paris Agreement period, that is COP 15, and now that was COP 21, sorry, but that was in 2015, and now we are at COP 28. Last year there was the Conference of Parties, and you realize that there's huge participation. Last year, for example, the records show that there was about 35,000 participation.
Wow.
From about 200 countries. And this is one of the conferences that you have heads of states making moral commitments. You can call it a legal commitment, but I think these commitments are more voluntary. And so it is. So COP essentially is the investment forum for clean energy, for renewable energy, for climate action, for sustainability, for anything that we think can seem
lead the green discussion.
The green discussion, perfect. So
on the road to net zero.
On the road to net zero and all that, and all the other terminologies that comes with it. Okay, so last year, for example, Africa was fortunate to have the COP 27 in Egypt, and it was. For us, the Africans, we were equally excited. We were excited because there is a lot of talk when it comes to investment and commitment into the African continent for this whole green discussion or this whole green conversation. The reason is that at the moment, Africa is actually facing the ramifications of not paying attention to the safer world programs, the clean world talks, the clean energy talks, the Save the Planet talks, and all the other family members related to that. The reason is that we only pollute, when you look at the percentage of contribution from Africa to this whole greenhouse gas emissions and pollution, we do about 3%. The whole of Africa does about 3%.
Much less than one of those countries does.
Yes. A country like China alone has its own figures. A country like the US has its own figures. And that is more than what the whole of Africa is looking at. The challenge, however, is that we are bearing the negative impact. And I empathize with the people in the Volta region with the recent happening from the Akosombo Dam. There are a lot of discussions around it. there are high political discussions, there are other traditional discussions, there is a scientific part. And if you listen to the scientific, I will talk about the scientific discussions around it. If you listen to the scientific discussions, the pattern of inflow
Yeah.
to the dam, I'm sure the steady pattern has changed. And so the model completely, and so the model of prediction didn't follow whatever used to follow. And so somehow it came as a surprise. The inflow came as a surprise. Because for some time now, if you listen to the narrative or the history with Akosombo, they haven't really gotten to that stage to even decide to spill. And so when they were overwhelmed with that inflow, they needed to take a lot of engineering or scientific decision in order to even save the dam, because
Assuming the dam breaks.
if the dam breaks, it will be a different story.
We are all gone.
Recently, I think about 2 months ago, we heard the Libya story, and that was very pathetic. And so when we, the Africans, when we talk about COP, it is walking the talk of those that are trying to organize this. The investments that are required for this part of the continent, we've subscribed to all these kind of protocols and these agreements, but the walk to it has been challenging, because we are welcoming whatever proposals that are on the tables. We are equally ratifying all this, but the work, that is the investment into this, is what is lacking for the Africans.
I get you, but I think the whole climate conversation is very complicated when it comes to Africa, and even all of the global south is very complicated because of where we find ourselves. But before we delve better into that, let me take you back. You mentioned the Paris Agreement. What is that about?
The Paris Agreement was essentially the commitment to global warming, rise in temperature, the melting of all these polar areas that the world is supposed to pay attention to.
Good.
And that was a huge commitment at that time. It was expected that these moral commitments were going to receive the right strategies and programs, so that at a time like this, we should have a certain target. But as we speak now, I think the targets that were all set,
we are not hitting them.
We are not meeting it at all.
Okay.
And so it's called, and COP, the ratification of this Paris Agreement and all that, is a life program. It is not something that is a working. So at this stage now, there is, I think for COP23, for COP28 now, this year will end the review, is the second year of review, and that is actually the closure of the review for the Paris Agreement, for example, because after each 5 years, there's supposed to be a 2-year review to see the performance, look at the strategies and the programs, even if it's really getting aligned.
Okay. So the whole COP, back to Africa and COP. So Africa would go in there, and the conversations about or the strategies, that we want to implement to mitigate these climatical setbacks, Some of them tend to be pretty extreme, and because Africa is on the same levels of development as far as energy is concerned as the global north, there tend to be difficulties. So they would meet at COP, and then some of these agreements and discussions would happen. But after they happen, well, the West could struggle to hit some of those, but it's even worse for us. So I want to understand, do we have to be going there to talk about unique timelines for a part of the world, or how are we all going to do this? Because for climate, it's all of the world, it's all of us. But when it comes to where we are economically on our survival, all the energy deficits that we have, all the energy poverty that we have, how do we run now quickly? And then it's quite a difficult conversation.
So let me talk about a practical case with that I'll use two scenarios. If you look at, for example, our first commitment to this whole climate talk, I think the country developed its first master plan in terms of renewable energy development, and that is due to end by 2030.
Okay.
It has a target to meet 447.5 megawatt of utility scale solar, for example.
Oh, okay.
And it was broken into cycles. To talk about timelines, this was broken into cycles. There was a first cycle, the second cycle, and the third cycle. The first cycle had its own target. The second cycle, which is where we are now, between 2021 to 2025, had a target of developing a total of 195 utility scale solar, for example. Mm-hmm. Even though we are not, our commitment is very negligible, right? But we are still committed to also at least stop the focus on fossils and see how we can equally inject clean energy into the grid. How much do we have now for the second cycle? From 2021 to 2025, we were looking at the development of about 195 megawatt. The third cycle is looking at 100 megawatt. In all, we are looking at 447. But then, if you look at the development between 2021 to 2025, mm-hmm. apart from we powers, let's say, 50 megawatt and others, I'm not sure the country's development was even up to 100 megawatt.
Yeah.
Not to talk about the deficits of the extra 95 megawatt. Why are we stagnant? The country needs money to improve its grid infrastructure to be able to accommodate these intermittent renewables, mm-hmm. because the infrastructure as it is now is only able to respond to injections that are not intermittent. The country needs money to be able to get very competitive energy so that the citizenry can also pay. Mm-hmm. And any emission from that processes at least can be lessened. Mm-hmm. These are all things that we are not getting. Even if we are getting at it at a very expensive rate. Is it attractive for the government to accept? Are there conditions for this financing where there will be no future litigations and other costs that are not bearable? Mm-hmm. What are some of the trainings that, for example, these international partners or those that are, in fact, really destroying the environment? Where is the principle of responsible investment? These other multinationals that are getting into the country to help us meet our goals, are they still using the conventional way in mining, in telecommunication, in all these other areas mm-hmm. that consume very high energy? So these are all areas that if they are making investment and they are making it responsibly, these are all things that they will come with into the country and help us with. But you are not seeing this kind of commitment. Mm-hmm. It is part of, but in their sustainability books, in their sustainability reporting, you get to see that they are buying some uniforms for the children, they are buying some hats. But these sustainability
for energy.
There's a trilemma with sustainability. There's the economic side, the environmental side, and the social side. Mm-hmm. You don't just tackle
one corner
and define that corner as a trilemma. You are not ensuring any triple bottom line when it comes to this system. So these are things that we need to see. Commitment into the side that we feel that they are equally caring about whatever we are doing, but we are not seeing some of these things. And we keep attending because we can only hope. The country can only hope.
Hope is never enough.
Exactly.
Hope is not action.
The REMP was a $5.6 billion investment plan. If you look at the investment, and this was up to 2030. If you look at the current investment into the renewable energy, I'm not sure it's even up to $1 billion, but this was a $5.6 billion master plan that we committed ourselves to be able to also help with this whole, climate change strategies. Let's get to the energy transition. Recently, the government launched the investment master plan, and that's about 560 billion or almost 600 billion. And this is up to 2070. We may end up, that is in 2070, if I still don't have the gray hair, we may still maybe be sitting under the camera still discussing about some of these things. Because the REMP was done in 2015, we are in 2023, 8 years down the line, and we are not seeing anything. We have the transition master plan, the transition plan to 500, almost 600 billion, dollar investment plan. Well-defined programs, commitments,
strategies.
So we go there to sell some of our priority projects, to talk to investors.
Paying for investment.
Exactly. For them to come in and not come in as we are not seeking for philanthropists, neither are we seeking
just partnership.
Exactly. Good partnership, that will be a win-win, but the focus will be in helping us also contribute to save the world. Because now we are bearing a lot of the effects with just 3% of the overall continent's contribution. And so we just also want to help. We want to do something, but we are not getting it.
For me, it's not even about the contribution. That's who contributed what and who caused what. That's a big issue, but let's put that aside. Putting that aside, now it's about we are all living on the same earth. We all want to survive it. We all want to. However, while working towards saving this earth, while working towards whatever commitment we take to COP, whatever commitment everybody else brings on there, that we go out, with our head high, that this is what we are going to do. Looking at all that, I think that there's another part of this. I'm happy. I realize Nigeria is pretty loud on it now, and I'm quite happy because Nigeria is being very practical in the sense that, look, you have more than over 660 million people, in excess of that, who do not even have electricity in Africa, who do not even have, and that's so basic. Like that is what, it's like having water to drink, So what about looking at that? So for me, whilst we're looking at this climate issues, while we're looking at renewables, why don't we say, okay, for any new investments we're going to do, this is what we prioritize, because we are saving our earth, okay? Nonetheless, as knowing where we come from and who we are in a situation that we are in, I don't think abruptly we shut down the existing, okay? How does it work hand in hand? Then we can say this is a practical document for transition. Let's start from here. That's what I really think is holding us back, because if it's about starting from the ideal, it's going to take a long time to implement all that we have put together. So why don't we start from most practically? This is what we have. New investment should be what we dream for, what the future should be, the ideal, but the old one, what happens to that? How do we still sustain and survive to go on? 2070 will be here.
Oh yes, 2070, maybe you have to fly me here. Because I'll be in 2017, I'll be in my village. So, Leslie, I totally agree with you. And, what you said is hanging on the taking the low-hanging fruits.
Yeah, and take off from there.
We look at the low-hanging fruits, then we look at, the others. If you look at this was the same call by the president when we were developing the transition plan, for example. And he said that we equally need to develop. And there's a lot of goodwill with whatever we are doing now. And when I say that, what I mean is that there's still some use to keep the economy flowing with the fossils that we are having. But then, how do we make that process
Still
equally
sustainable.
exactly and
Yes.
compliant
Yes.
to this
Yes.
and that? So, if you look at the current generation, even though you have thermal to be about 60% or over, the fuel source, we are using a clean fuel source, and that's a natural gas. Natural gas has been considered as a transition fuel. So there's a focus there to look at that strategy. There are other ways that even exploration of the various oil fields can be done in a sustainable way. Yes. But the point is that how do we, because when you look at even other technologies to even make the oil, exploration to be clean, or even to use same for power generation, the other technologies that you need to add, like the carbon capture, storage and utilization, we need support for these kind of technologies to be able to commercialize it, because there are a lot of other additionalities when it comes to when you add the CCUS to the fuel, the fossil fuels for it to be clean. There are other investment that needs to come, and will that make the generation from thermal still competitive? So these are other support that we can get from these external partners to still do whatever we are doing, but doing in a sustainable way. Yes, so we don't need to throw away whatever we are doing. South Africa tried to do that just to jump onto the end. I think somewhere in the middle of the year they were experiencing doom so. Because they wanted to just jump, and that will not help anybody, because that will strongly bring the economic indicators down. If your factories are down and all that,
You make the whole economy unattractive.
Exactly. So I agree with you.
So-
we can look at that trajectory and follow.
Okay. So in terms of climate finance, are there also opportunities that come out of COP?
You see, that has been one of the challenges that I'm not sure it's only a challenge that Ghana alone even faces. I think all over the world, if you look at even the structure of the climate market, you see very attractive rates to encourage you to do a lot of climate-related activities.
Okay.
At the end of the day, the entry into the market, having been registered onto the market, and possible buyers and the rates that they negotiate are not even attractive at all, because you may want to continue doing a lot of afforestation programs. You may want to do a lot of, clean energy projects to see if you can get some rebates or, credits and all that. But when you get to the market, the rates that are being being sold in, they are not attractive at all. And so if you look at Ghana, for example, I'm not sure we are that strong on even a lot of the financing when it comes to other climate programs like the carbon market and all that. Yes, the financing is something that was hugely spoken to. If you recall to
Even at 27, there are lots of commitment.
There were moral commitments to the loss and damage. The loss and damage fund.
Right.
The loss and damage was essentially for our part of the world that currently are facing drought, flood, all the related
The
effects. At the moment, there has to be a well-defined program and strategies that countries that have started having the impact, and we see it in Libya. We've seen it over here with Akosombo, with all these things. We should be able to assess, because if all these things that we are facing now becomes an additional burden after COVID and all this, nobody is willing to see the commitment that you are talking about. And so the expectation from COP28, for example, one of the key expectations is to have a closure and a proper direction as to how countries in our part of the world can even access the loss and damage fund, which is very critical for us now.
Very much,
Yes. So that is one of the expectations of the COP28 for, people like the African countries and Ghana.
Because there's so much to be done, for the process, for the transition, and it's all money.
Yeah, it's all money.
Everything has to be financed.
Now, everything is finances.
So who's financing?
The big boys are over there. So it is just not about the talk. It's about
Action, yeah.
the actions. Certain waivers that we can equally have if if there's somebody in Ghana that is doing manufacturing, for example, bringing these kind of raw materials to Ghana, they can equally, get some discount and, waivers just like they give to their own businesses that they are coming here.
Yeah.
All these things make it attractive.
More attractive.
Exactly.
I think in Ghana now there are carbon capture businesses here. There are companies that are focused on carbon credits. Even in Ghana, we didn't used to even have it.
Yes.
So as these have come in now, I think slowly, I'm sure the space could develop up better. But what's your hope for Ghana? What do you expect, or what do you hope that we are coming out of COP28 with?
I'll just talk about what we have already presented. Ghana has launched its transition document.
Okay.
And has gotten everything to speed up with the investment plan. My expectation is that, one, the team will really expose what has been captured in the investment plan, because I'm sure the motive was for this COP, the main document, and now we have the investment plan. And so it is how we sell the investment plan.
Okay.
And we've well defined the various areas and the expected investment around that. There are priority projects that the government is taking out there to influence its add-on, because now we know that for the energy side, we have an annual demand of 10%. Here for the 10% additions that we are adding.
Oh, you mean 100% annually increment?
No, 10%. The demand on the electricity market is 10%.
Okay.
Yes, so averagely around 8 to 10, but we work with around 10. And so there has to be add-ons. There has to be new capacities that are bringing this 10%.
Okay.
Now we're having about over 60% thermal, very good base load, and fantastic output. Availability is high. All the other technical parameters are good. We should equally have a focus on the clean side, the clean investment in power generation. So this 10% that are coming on, just like you said, that the new 600 million that are even supposed to have access to electricity should have at least clean electricity.
Yes.
We should equally push for 10% additionality year on from clean energy. And that can advance our focus.
I realized something. Even the renewable energies, there are so many forms of it that tend to be cheaper than the previous that we were using, that is becoming the unacceptable energy in a sense. So if it tends to be cheaper, then it means that we can find ways to finance even small businesses, maybe permit mini-grid systems. Okay. Yeah, so we can have more and more people help develop. We can't always they all just sit at the government.
Exactly.
So are there any plans like that? Break it up, give permits for mini-grid, distribution permits, so that the whole power sector is opened up.
Exactly. So, I think there are already programs like that. The Energy Commission is currently running one of the finance schemes, except that when these funds come in, at the end of the day, these soft funds ends up to be a commercial facility, and it doesn't make these local businesses, it doesn't make it attractive for them to go for them. But these are other areas they can advocate for better mechanisms. I mean, the securitization of these facilities shouldn't be an issue to them, because when you have further discussions, what they say is that they need to securitize the funds that is coming in with the commercial facility. This shouldn't be an issue. Let those that are involved in the direct business doing, this domestic kind of, solar installations or other renewable energy deployments, let them have access to the soft funds that they can invest in and pay back. When it comes to, mini grids, for example, at the moment, I think the government has floated a tender for about 35 mini grids.
Great.
That looking at having receiving proposals by next year. The rest of the access that we have on our plan should look at the deployment of some of these scalable units, mini grids, other hybrid clean energy systems. If you can complement the wind with the solar, you can equally scale up. We should be having some of these. We shouldn't look at having a grid extension as against deploying some of these, because at the end of the day, grid extensions to these island communities are even more expensive.
Exactly. That's just my point.
Exactly. Yes. So
there's communal grids that everybody taps into, and
we train the local community to own and maintain, because
that's employment.
Exactly. So you are satisfying the other side of your sustainability trilemma, because when you turn around to get experts that are able to come beyond these island communities to the island communities to come and maintain, it's far expensive than getting the locals. You can equally have internet access to remotely monitor how they are maintaining some of these things. And so focus on access. Where we want to get to universal access, I think we are about 87 or 88 now. The rest of the access that we are looking at, 95% should have investment in these areas. And we have them. We have some of these things in our transition plan.
Okay.
Yes, all these things, a huge of them are even in the master plan, the renewable energy master plan that is ending in 2030. Because the focus was that by the end of the master plan, the country should have a full access. So it was tailored to, meet together. Even though now the current administration has moved the access to 2025, that by 2025 there should be full access, there should be universal access. But these
are here in a blink.
But
this is 2023.
Yeah, it is 2023.
Actually, 2023 is about ending tomorrow, so.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's ending tomorrow because tomorrow is December.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are, these blueprints are still live documents, and these are where they need to, assist us. Now, you don't even hear a lot about the REMP, because it looks like the traction that we were looking at hasn't been met. And these are some of the challenges that we keep hearing from them, and they keep disappointing us.
Oh, God.
The release, the negotiations on these 35 mini grids, for example, that is currently under
open for bid.
Yeah, open for tender. The document was developed way back in 2021.
Wow.
2021. And the funds, the availability of the funds and its administration and the structure, the processes grew a lot. It takes so much. And so you don't see, at the moment, CIF, AFDB, Climate Investment Fund, the partners within there are doing this. But it takes a longer time before
implementation hits ground.
Exactly. And it delays the target. That is why
you lose value.
You lose value, exactly. Now, one of the areas, there are 3 thematic areas for COP28 now.
Okay.
The other one is being aggressive on the global warming, because the targets that were set by these countries has all not been met. and part of it is some of these reasons. If you need to make commitment into such development, do it and do it at a time. It comes to the issue of the timelines. Otherwise...
For they not being met, well, personally, I see it mainly to be practicality of targets I see it to be financing, okay? And I also see execution and leadership in there, okay? So if these are real, I don't know if you do agree with me, but if these are the reality, these are all things we can solve because we have control, you know? These are all things we can, unless of course we can say, well, the financing and we are stretching and we are not reaching, but I still think these are things we can solve. You put a practical one on the table and say, this is what we can do. And we work at it. Have the right leadership in place and we execute. Or what do you think?
No, I agree. I agree. These are things that are within, our hands. The other challenge is, what I was just talking about is the availability. Yeah, because the program now, when it comes to these kind of technologies, these programs all end into the technologies. And when it comes to these kind of technologies, the knowledge of it is not far away from us. Yeah, you have a vibrant citizenry that are always looking to, do something for the future.
Who is in charge of such education?
You mean who?
Yes, who is supposed to take up this education that can help?
The policymakers all the time, most of the time, try to get this policy by getting academia, by trying to tailor the curriculum into what is running now. And the moment I can talk about within the energy side. Within the energy side, for example, a lot of the policies that are being made now, academia has an input.
Oh, okay.
And academia equally looks at what is being done now to infuse it into the curriculum that are in the schools. Because, WIPA, for example, has a close relations with some of the universities, because a lot of their products run the plants that we do. And so, yes, a lot of the products from Kenya University, almost all the engineers, the managers, the directors are all locally trained.
So BUI does not have expatriates controlling?
No, it's 100% run by Ghanaians. Yes, the plant is 100% run by Ghanaians and maintained by Ghanaians.
Completely.
Except a plant that maybe has a different ownership structure.
Okay.
That ownership has not fully been transferred to BPA. That is still in there.
So for lots of BUI's renewable systems, they are deployed by Ghanaians, they are maintained by Ghanaians, they are all through.
100% Ghanaians. There's no expatriate. Yes.
So it's possible.
No, it's possible. In terms of the know-how, the technology, it's just on the table. Yeah, except that the implementation is where your procurement process, the financing of it, the conditions related to it, that has always been the challenge. And that is, the need for such kind of conference like the COP28, where better negotiations and discussions can be made so that we can have a full control over our process. If you meet our commitment on the other side, the supplier or the manufacturer meets his or her commitment. And equally, we should even, one thing that we need to look at strongly is staying relevant across the whole value chain. We should not be happy just stayed relevant only at the downstream, but also at the upstream. Because now, if it is about manufacturing, even if it is about assembling, however description we want to give to, we should stay relevant on both sides, such that it increases the base of our human capital. There are some, for example, inverters or transformers that are tailor-made for specific areas within the country. Temperature is different. If you go to the shelf of the manufacturer, you might get an average temperature range working for a certain inverter. If you come to Ghana, if you go to the north, you might have high temperatures like 50 or 60 degrees. But these are things that we need to infuse all into our manufacturing processes. And
Okay.
that is why we should stay relevant at the upstream and also at the downstream, so that the downstream can give information to the upstream.
Okay.
Yes.
Then we get that value all through.
Exactly.
Okay, so engineer, before we wrap this up, I want viewers to just understand. Okay, we've explained what COP is. We explained what our country and other African countries get out of COP. What happens at COP, all that we've explained here. But finally, before we wrap it up, we want to understand just one more thing. Our transition plan is ready. Now, he said we also have the investments plan, right? So what specifically do you think post-COP will be easy for us to move forward with? Do you believe that we'll get maybe financing out of COP, A, B, C, what exactly, so that we can hope for, or we can, we can expect that, well, after COP, it is possible that we can have that and that and that for Ghana's transition to take off?
I mean, with our participation at COP, for example, my expectation is that everything that is on the table is going to be displayed out there.
Good.
What we have been able to do, what we intend to do, and what we need.
Mm-hmm.
So we show what we've been able to do. What we intend to do now, we are telling the investors that this is what we have on the plate. Then what we intend to achieve at the end. And so I expect that the conversations of hitting the ground should start. So we have this kind of projects. Have we had a feasibility? Yes. No. We sit down to negotiate on how to carry out a feasibility and actually doing the project.
Hold on.
Why? The focus is not about the returns that you, the investor that want to invest in a clean market or that wants to invest responsibly. Your focus is not, if you want to have a different investment other than saving the world, other than saving the environment, this is not your conference. You should look for a more competitive business conference too. So the expectation is that if you are coming for the COP, you should look at something that
Patient investments.
exactly, and how you can put your money in, because at the end of the day, if the whole world is flooded, where is your money? And so look at what to save the world. Let's negotiate on a win-win, at least an investment that will make your money to be sustainable. You are not looking for that fat profit. Let's hit the ground. The meritocracies with these, I mean, the processes should lessen. These processes should lessen. So let's, shorten our negotiations. Let's look at what is doable, and let's just
Sit
do
and hit
it.
the ground.
Because there are times, there's a whole reason why times are set into this kind of commitment. And so as we delay on the time, this kind of temperature targets and the impact that we are having will continue to be with us. And by the time we really want to invest, the world is not there. So my expectation is that those that are making the investment should just be committed to it and, come to the table for us to negotiate, to talk. Then we can do whatever can save everyone. We shouldn't wait for a disaster before we want to see what is left. We can equally, and that brings a commitment, that brings the conversation of adaptability and the mitigation. We should rather focus, we can always adapt with whatever is happening now, but we should have a focus on how to,
Completely.
exactly, so that we don't get to the point that we are adapting to whatever that is happening with us. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Viewers, my biggest takeaway, or the sharpest one that sits right here on my mind, Engineer Max said, if you're an investor and you don't invest right, where will your money be when the world is flooded, right? That's a catch. Remember that. You got us on Energy Quest. So thank you so much for your time. And we hope that post-COP we get to have conversations on all that is going to happen there. And then we can also help our viewers to understand where we are in this whole transition process. Okay. So this is what we do on Energy Quest. We demystify the energy sector and add value. So till we meet again.